Hi, this is Billie Beene here with another segment of Billie Beane's Alien Disclosure by Redneck, Part 32. Today's date is April 4th, 2022. We'll cover bloodlines, giants, and Nephilim. Some of my sources are Jessica Areal Morocco, interview of Peter the Insider, Dr. Michael Salla, Elena Danaan, Israeli News Live, Stephen Benoon, Gene Decode, Kat Kerr, Trey Smith, and some things I've done. So let's get started. Okay. I'd like to say thanks, like, subscribe, and share. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen, and I'd like to say welcome to all 50 states, including Alaska, Hawaii, and the First Nations: Cherokee, Navajo, Hopi, Chickasaw, Mohawk, Apache, First Nation Pitt River in California, Mohegans, Yakama Nation in Washington State, Potawatomi in the Midwest in Oklahoma, Ojibwe Nation in northern Minnesota, a proud people who want peace and justice, Choctaw, Abenaki Tribe, Cheyenne, Massantucket Pequot, the Blackfoot in Montana, Spokane, and Coville. And we'd like to say welcome to the nations of Canada, England, France, Ireland, Philippines, South Africa, Netherlands, also called Holland, Indonesia, Scotland, Germany, Switzerland, New Zealand, Maldives, Nepal, Norway, Australia, Chile, Thailand, Belgium, Mexico, Brazil, Russia, Panama, Guam, a U.S. territory, Jamaica, an Icelander living in Spain, and other people in Spain, Wales in the UK, Sweden, Italy, Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory, Romania, Bermuda, Bahamas, British territories, Morocco, Argentina, Northern Marianas Island, that's a U.S. territory off of Australia and New Zealand, Denmark, Bolivia, Uganda, Iceland, Serbia, Bulgaria, Mauritius, a small island nation off of Africa, and the newest, Ukraine, the Czech Republic, and Poland. And we say welcome. Okay, so some of the things I'll be covering are Patriot subscribers. Had a lot of response from my last Truth by Billie Beene episode about giants. And I'll cover what is the current population on the earth in terms of humans, non-terrestrials, and others. I'll cover bloodlines in terms of Rh factor and blood types. Also, ETs from off-world are coming on the earth and committing satanic ritual killings in national parks. The U.S. military has been deployed. Ark ships. And plus, more info. Okay, I have a Patriot subscriber about the giants. The First Nation people have killed giants in the caves in Nevada, and they have red hair. I have a Patriot subscriber on the west coast of Canada. The First Nation people call the giants Sabi. So sounds like we have some First Nation people in the United States and Canada, and I'm sure other areas too. Okay, Patriot subscriber. The U.S. military, when I talked about the Kandahar, I think I did a misspeak and said it was in Iraq. That was in my Truth by Billie Beene episode. But the U.S. military has engaged giants, the Nephilim, in Afghanistan, called the Kandahar giant, but also in Iran and Iraq. And this Patriot subscriber says in Olympia, Washington, we have the giants there. They're 9 feet tall. They have 9 feet tall or 3 meters tall. They have red hair, 6 fingers, and 6 toes. Now, I looked this up in the Bible, in 2 Samuel and also in Chronicles. It talks about the giant Nephilims having 6 fingers, 6 toes. Okay, I have a Patriot subscriber talking about the giants in Washington State. We know about the ETs taking humans, kidnapping humans at Mount Rainier. And Stephen Banoon with Israeli News Live brought that out too. And we are cautious about where we go. Strange things happen here. The Sasquatch are on the move. So, yeah, we have other reports of Bigfoot and Sasquatch moving, but the Bigfoot and Sasquatch species are distinct from the ETs that are doing the ritual killing and the Giants and Nephilim. Okay. I have a Patriot subscriber talking about the star seeds. And they're saying the opposite of possession is walk-in. Yeah, or reincarnation. Now, I'll link a previous alien disclosure by Redneck I've done about reincarnation, information from God and from Gene Decode. Okay. And this Patriot subscriber is mentioning light workers, indigo children, and star seeds. Yeah, there's a lot going on we don't exactly understand yet. Okay. And this Patriot subscriber is talking about giants. A 411 is like a site, a book even, individuals written about people disappearing in national parks, and he's been able to tie it, to strange happenings. But this Patriot subscriber says something is happening in Newberry, Michigan, and also in Wisconsin with regard to kidnappings. And we're talking about the giants or fallen angels, the offspring Nephilim. Yeah. Another Patriot subscriber, giants. The beings in stasis are not Nephilim, but from another galaxy. Because in my Truth by Billie Beene, I talked about, but I'll also talk about in this episode too, about beings in stasis on the Ark ships. Okay. I have a Patriot subscriber talking about the giants. And she had just read about the military killing giants in Iran, and they had red hair. Now, red hair runs in my family, too. So. Okay, Dr. Michael Salla. All right, now we'll begin with some information that'll give us an idea of who's living on Earth. So, all right, Dr. Michael Salla interviewed Alex Collier. And Alex Collier said that the starseed had incarnated on Earth. And I'll be covering this incarnated because this doesn't come from God. These individuals say, oh yeah, I choose when I'm going to be born on Earth. But they really are taking possession of a human body that's been created by God or by a hybrid. So hybrids, not humans, that's correct. So they're coming in and they're possessing hybrid bodies. Because I asked God about it and he said, no, they don't come in and incarnate in human bodies created by God. But they can in the hybrid bodies that other species who have engaged in genetic manipulation have hybridized humans and other species. So these starseed can incorporate in the hybrid bodies. So, okay. And Alex Collier is saying that 200 million have come into the Earth and incarnated. That'll be in the hybrid bodies. So I'll go into more detail with you. Okay. They've come with the purpose of activating the Ark ships where the giants, the Nephilim, are in stasis. So I don't see a good outcome for that. Now, I'll go over this. Gene Decode had a near-death experience in 1992. That was for half an hour. And I had a Patriot subscriber who supports what Gene is reporting, and she had in 1986 a near-death experience for 20 minutes. And she says much of what Jean says that God had also given to her. And this God created humans first, and we are the only species created in the image of God. Yeah, she said God, and Gene Decode says this too. God created billions of galaxies and billions of species. Now, for myself, I had always known I'd live on Earth, and then when I finished my training on Earth, I'll go to heaven, rest, get more training, and then I would go out to evangelize, essentially, spread the gospel of Jesus Christ to other species. I knew this when I was very, very young. So the concept of other species comes easily to me. But we have people coming forth now. Okay. And what Gene Decode also brought out, and I think this is a key to what we'll be covering, is human DNA. Now, originally we had 64 strands, as did Jesus. So Adam and Eve had 64 strands. We're down now to 2 with 10 dormant. But Gene Decode says even at that rate, inside human DNA, we carry the etheric blueprint, or like a spirit blueprint, of the DNA of all other species. Okay. So now I'll go over who I think is on Earth. I've been coming to this knowledge, I'd say in the last year. Okay, I think we have 3 groups currently on Earth. We have humans who are created by God. We have ETs. This is how I distinguish between the fallen angels and other species. So I'll show you. So ETs is what I call the fallen angels. They mated with humans and they made a hybrid. Now, I couldn't understand how did this work, because when humans are created, God creates our physical body from 2 parent lines, our father and mother. They come together, we inherit, and I believe we inherit through that physical bloodline from the parents. We inherit experience and knowledge and capabilities from those 2 bloodlines coming together to create our physical body. Now, God puts in us His living spirit, and in that spirit is our life. It's also the extra gifting and our destiny. And then we're responsible for the development of our soul, that is mind, emotions, and will. And then the Spirit of God is separate from our soul, but then it entwines within our soul to make us a living being. Now, these ETs, the fallen angels, have been separated from God for billions of years. They have not been receiving life from God. Therefore, they must get life from living species. And this comes, they absorb human energy. That's why the mainstream media that's controlled by the cabal, the evil, generates fear, because fear is a form of energy that these beings can consume. They also literally can consume human bodies like that. All right, so that's ETs. We have humans created by God. Now, the fallen angels originally were created by God, but they separated from God. Now we have also non-terrestrial species. also created by God. So they're also created by God. And they would have within them a spirit of life from God. Now, it is the Cabal, the fallen angels, and other species who engaged in a practice that God considers an abomination, which is genetic manipulation. And they have created hybrids. Humans plus non-terrestrial species. Now I'll give you some numbers. Okay, and I'll give you a timeline also. Here's a timeline. So we have between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, many Bible professors, scholars call the gap theory, had come to the conclusion that God created the earth and then it was destroyed. During this period also is Lemuria and Atlantis. This took place millions of years ago. Right here is the ACIO, which will come into play. The ACIO is an alien contact intel organization sponsored by the Galactic Federation of Worlds. The Galactic Federation of Worlds is a group of species inside our galaxy. And they have this group that came into being and has records that go back 40,000 years. And then, about 6,000 years ago, would have been Adam and Eve, who had 64-strand DNA, as did Jesus. So, that's been going on. Now, the downgrade by other species upon the human species has been to take our DNA from 64. We're currently down to 2 with 10 dormant, but we also carry the etheric blueprint of all other species still. And we are still the most coveted species in all of the billions of universes, because we are created in the image of God. We think, we speak, and we create. We also are able to reproduce. All right. So this gives us a timeline because it's somewhat confusing. Where did all these species come from? Okay. Now, in that timeline, in this first one, I think that we had humans 1.0. And then when Adam and Eve were created, that was humans 2.0. I've been able to understand it that way. Now, at this point, God, due to genetic manipulation, brought an extinction level event. And then during also this period, God brought about an extinction level event that left only 8 people on the earth, commonly called the flood of Noah. God despises genetic manipulation. Okay. Now we'll look at some numbers. So we have the 3 groups on Earth. We have humans, we have ETs, and we have non-terrestrial. Non-terrestrial. Okay, so here's some numbers. About a month ago or so, 107, whom Kerry Cassidy believes is JFK Jr., said the population on the earth is 14 billion. Now we're commonly given 7 to 8 billion. Trey Smith, who is a Christian author, has a math science background, has said these numbers don't add up to what would be the probability of, multiplying population. So he has always believed it was much larger. So between this number and this, I'm picking 6 billion to be the basis for my math. Okay, so population on Earth, 10 billion. Gene decode says, oh, incidentally, during that near-death experience Gene had in 1992, God downloaded the gene the next 1,000 years. So he usually knows what he's talking about. And a lot of things he says matches up with information God gave me when I was young. So, okay, so gene decode says currently on the Earth we have 30% human. And so I'm calculating a number of 3 billion. So 3 billion. And commonly we would say 10% of any population is going to be Christian. In the United States it's a little higher in certain other parts of the world, but generally speaking. So 3 billion human. So that leaves 7 billion who are non-terrestrial basically. I think in this number I'm using something like 6.9 billion and then a 0.1 billion for ETs. These are the 13 bloodlines, the fallen hybrids between humans and fallen angels, the Nephilim, Rockefeller, Rothschilds, like that. And also these bloodlines have removed the legitimate bloodlines who were created as royals in different nations. So they can shapeshift, and they're primarily the species Draco, Greys, Reptilians. So we have a better idea of numbers and who is on the Earth. Now, okay. So, right. I think I've already, yeah. All right, so the non-terrestrial were created by God, but genetic manipulation separated them from God. All right. I think I've got that for you. Now, this incarnate, I've heard this from different sources. Dr. Michael Salla, Elena Danaan, Elena Kilpatrick of Awakening Cosmic Reality, and other sources. Talking about Areal, and I decided I would incarnate on Earth. Now, God, who creates humans, and he creates other species, but it's God who decides the geography, the location for your birth, your parents, and your birth date, and the time that you're going to come. You don't just decide you're going to incarnate on Earth. No, these are separate beings separated from God, who are trying now to come down and take over human bodies. But God says they can't come down and take over human bodies. They can only come inside the hybrids. All right. So now we'll cover RH, blood types. I found this fascinating. This is from, because I've had a lot of questions from Patriot subscribers about blood types, RH negative, RH plus, and like that. And my research hasn't revealed much. There's not much available, but I was thankful that Elena Danaan had a download from the Galactic Federation of Worlds. So she was able to bring this information out. Now, she's talking about chromosomes. A chromosome equals a species. Like humans have 46 chromosomes. There are a few that have 47. I think that's with Down syndrome, but those individuals are sterile. To have sexual reproduction, you have a father and a mother. And in this case, for the humans, as the body goes through the process to engage in sexual reproduction, for the female, it's the egg. For the male, it's the sperm. So 46 chromosomes have to divide into 23, 23. Then they engage in sexual reproduction. There must be a matchup for a viable child to come forth. That's why sometimes there are miscarriages, and it's because those matches are just not being made. That's not going to be a viable child, a child who can sexually reproduce. So at any rate, this comes to be 46. So the number of chromosomes is important as to determine what is the species and its sexual reproduction status. Now, she is saying that the Anunnaki, fallen angels, changed human blood types to add the category O. Now we have, and also to bring in an RH factor. So primarily the human blood types now are A, that's an A plus, RH plus, R, and A negative, which would be an RH factor negative, or a B, and also like this, or an AB plus, or an AB negative, or an O plus, and O negative. So this has to do with changing the human blood type to allow for humans and other species to create hybrids. And this was done by the fallen angels. Now, we have some percentages given for RH plus and RH negative, which cannot be correct. Peter the Insider, the director of the 12th Division of the ACIO, brought out a few months ago that the Slavic people, and that's people primarily Russian-speaking in Ukraine, in Russia, in Belarus, in Poland, in the Czech Republic, in all those countries around Russia and around Ukraine, and currently in Canada are 35%, and I submit it would be higher. It's 35% concentrated in this area of Canada. In the United States, it's in our northeast quarter, 35%, but I submit it's a much larger population number, Slavic people. And Peter the Insider said it was determined like Chernobyl. That was in, the 80s, when they had supposedly a nuclear accident and released radiation. Peter the Insider said that was not an accident, it was a test. To test the Slavic people's reaction to radiation. The Slavic people who have an RH factor of RHX. They're neither positive nor negative. And Peter reported radiation has virtually no effect on these people. So we can see maybe the cabal has some hidden basis for their genocide act against this group in Ukraine and Russia. So we cannot rely upon the numbers of who is RH plus are Rh negative because there's a huge segment of the world population who is RHX. So, that's going on. Now, so Elena Danaan is bringing this out about the blood types. So, the O equals extraterrestrial. That would be a hybrid. And if you're O plus, this is fallen angel plus a non-terrestrial species, not human. And the ETs primarily, the ET hybrids are primarily tall whites. The highest percentage is in Basque, it's a small nation close to France. 60% are O plus. That means it's O type, and they have a RH plus. Okay. And it's also easier to create with the O plus blood. It's easier to engage in genetic manipulation by the ETs and other non-terrestrial species to create hybrids. And also these individuals have a higher ability to shape, shift, and to change density to go from 3D to 4D to 5D, like that, based on blood. All right. Now, the Anunnaki passed along certain attributes via the genetic manipulation. Red hair is one. IQ is up. Psychic ability is up. Blood pressure is up. Eye sensitive to light is up. Body vibration is easier to shapeshift, and it's this group that has the most abductions. Now, in that timeline I gave you, I showed you the ACIO. Their records go back 40,000 years. God had already given me a download that this was how individuals were targeted for abduction. That these records covered genetic, the genetic bloodline and the abilities. So they're saying that the O-type blood is targeted for abductions. And the O-type blood, according to Elena Danaan, matches reptilian. Humans with an RH positive are not abducted by reptilians for food, but they are abducted to be slaves and breeders. All right. Yeah. The reptilians don't want to eat their own blood type. Okay. Now we come to, so we've covered the groups on Earth. Humans, non-terrestrial ETs. Now we come to, and the starseed, which are non-terrestrial species incarnating. They're coming down to Earth and possessing or doing walk-ins of a non-terrestrial body. And this non-terrestrial body is a hybrid human non-terrestrial. Okay, so now come these ark ships and other things. And now we'll talk about Stephen Bannoun, formerly with the CIA, now has a ministry talks about, and he regularly still goes to, he's a consultant for the Pentagon because he can interpret ancient Hebrew language and symbols and like that and other languages. Okay. So Stephen regularly gets updates from the Pentagon. He's talking about ETs coming down to national parks, and they're engaging in satanic ritual killings that are similar to killings that occurred in Russia in 1959 near Dyatlov Pass in Russia. It was a mountain, and we had 7 men and 2 women camping, and in the middle of the night they all ran out of their tents, some of them naked, and they were found the next day or so, at least a mile from their tents, frozen. That's how cold it was. And their eyeballs had been removed, their tongues had been cut out, and these are the same mutilations that are now being seen in the national parks by these ETs coming from off-world. And they are in Washington State. And I had that Patriot subscriber said, yep, we know about it, near Mount Rainier. And in the national parks, and they're also killing park rangers in Yellowstone. So they're currently, this is now, Yellowstone, Grand Canyon, and an unidentified park in Colorado. And Stephen says the military has been deployed to these areas, and there also the men in black came, who were in the past the 6th Division of the ACIO, but the shadow CIA offered them more money. So now the men in black work for the shadow CIA, and they have these little wands, and they go to these areas where ET sighting or events have taken place, and memory wipe people. That's true. Okay, so the U.S. military has been engaged to these national parks. Now, the U.S. military has experience with these individuals, and they're hybrids that like human bear. They are not Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Now, they cannot kill them with bullets because they can shapeshift and go interdimensional, and the bullet will pass through. But what they can be killed with are knives, swords, daggers. And they are like the Kandahar giants in Afghanistan, but they've also fought them in Iran, Iraq, and places in the United States and other places. Yeah, they just haven't been exactly telling us about it. Now, this is all happening inside caves in Washington State, Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, parks in Colorado. And inside these caves, there are crystals on the wall that light up. They put out like a lime green color, and we're seeing similar technology in the Ark ships. And these creatures in the United States, in these park areas, have blue bodies. And they kidnap and kill people. Yeah. Okay. Now, we'll move on to the latest Ark ship activating. And that's in Antarctica, in Lake Vostok, S-T-O-K. So here is Antarctica. It's about in this area, a lake. Now, in February of 2001, it was noted by satellites that there was a huge magnetic anomaly underneath Lake Vostok. Now, just recently, March 18 of 2022, the temperature is going up 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 degrees Celsius in this area, unknown in human history. And it's understood to be heating up from an arc ship that is activating. Now, Jean-Claude Moine is a French super soldier. He's been interviewed by Dr. Salla and Elena Danaan. Apparently is someone in whom a star seed has incarnated and is activating. So Jean-Claude Moine, according to my understanding then, would be a hybrid human and non-terrestrial species into whom another individual from another species has taken possession or walked in or somehow is in control of Jean-Claude Moine and is now activating his memories about how to operate the arc ships, which will liberate the sleeping giants, the Nephilim. How about that? Okay, so Thor Han is an off-world contact representative of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, which is a group of planets and species operating out of the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, he's saying the arc ships are from a civilization not from this galaxy, and that they are 11,600 years old. So we're seeing times line up with the demise in the past of Atlantis and Lemuria. It's like a cycle coming around. Now, God recently gave to me that He's winding up certain constellations just like you would wind up a gem locker. You know, you rotate it and then it goes back like that. God is doing that. God has His own calendar, which came out in a recent sermon by Pastor Tim Sheets, God's calendar. Okay, the ETs are cigar. That's a name for their race. HRR, cigar. Okay, so now these cigars, which are the ETs, these are fallen angels, tried to activate the arc ships before World War II, when they found out they needed human DNA and body. That's when they began to work with Germany. This is World War II. All right. So that's been going on, working and hybridizing humans. All right. So the Intergalactic Confederation. Now, this is a group outside our galaxy, and it could be also inside that are in this group. So in October of 2021, they brought an armada of ships to Jupiter, And that also led to activating ark ships all over the earth. Now, they're also here to activate the star seeds. And this is what the star seeds need. So the star seeds come in, take over human bodies, and this is what they need from the human body. They need DNA. The individual has to be alive and conscious. They have to have their body and their soul at the same frequency. In other words, your body is vibrating at the same as your soul. Okay. And inside these ships, so they need the human and the starseed individuals come in and take over the human body. And the starseed have the knowledge of how to operate the ship. But they need the human hybrids, DNA, consciousness, frequency, vibration to get into the ships. And they want to get in to activate the giants, the Nephilim, who are in stasis. I don't see a good ending for this. All right. Now, Jean-Claude has had like a dream or a vision, and he has gone to the ark ship underneath Lake Vostok in Antarctica. And also, Elena Danaan was with him. This is like a vision dream for them, Jean-Claude. And this was on March 29. And Elena Danaan said she could see around Jean-Claude a holograph rising up around him, giving him information on how to operate the ship. Now, Thorhan, who is an off-world contact for the Galactic Federation of Worlds, says, remembering is activating. So as the incarnated starseed inside the human hybrid body is beginning to remember how to operate the ark ships, this is activating the ark ships. Okay. Now, there's a commonality between the satanic ritual killings we're seeing in the national parks. These individuals are blue, and they have something like, they leave something like a blue tattoo on the ground. That's how Stephen Benoud described it, but I submit to you it's something like a crop circle, some kind of imprint symbol on the ground, but it's blue. And these beings are blue. Now, these beings inside the ark ships, their skin is blue. And it's commonly been seen balls of blue plasma, and that's inside the ark ship in Antarctica, verified, described by Jean-Claude Mohan and Elena Danaan, and also in the ship under the Atlantic Ocean in the Bermuda Triangle just off of Florida. And that information comes from JP, the Army whistleblower, to Dr. Michael Salla. So we see a commonality of the color blue between the ETs doing satanic ritual killing and the ark ships and the beings inside the ark ships. So, now, Okay, so these sleeping giants are Nephilim. Right. Now, Elena Danaan, right, says, and Una. Okay, this is Una. She's an off-world contact for the Intergalactic Confederation. Says that a starseed and the human bodies are waking up to revive the giants, the Nephilim. And Una, regarding genetic manipulation of humans, this happened millions of years ago. And she's giving this additional information that the hybrid part has, of these off-world species, 6 or 7 or 8, up to 22 chromosomes. And that's why in the beginning I went over this. 46 chromosomes. That's a bundle. A chromosome is a bundle of genes. Equals a human. Now, Una is saying that individual humans who have 22 chromosomes, who are non-terrestrial, are the ones in whom the starseeds are incarnating. So, in conclusion, so we have non-human souls who are incarnating inside human hybrids, and their purpose is to take full possession of the human hybrid, to use the human DNA and frequency of the body to activate the arc ships to revive the Nephilim. Now, gene decode. You know, as I said, red hair runs in my family, so we know that we're human, but many are not human. We have human hybrids who have been hybridized with the non-terrestrial species. Now we also have the fallen angel who mated with humans and made the Nephilim. The Nephilim are not human, and they're not non-terrestrial either. They're ETs. Okay, so now the medbeds that are coming forth, and we believe very soon, we believe that soon we'll have our elected president in, and the medbeds are going to come out, and Gene Decode says, and other sources say, the medbeds can clean our blood and also restore our original DNA. And this would also turn back the years for us and restore our youth. And we say, yay. And now we can see why, when Jesus came, it was so important for his bloodline to be pure, have no only human blood in it. And for me, I believe that Adam and Jesus were created the same way by God, and that neither one of them carried any human DNA, that all of their DNA came directly from God. And then I believe Jesus was put into the womb of Mary to fulfill the prophecy of a virgin birth. And they came with 64 strands of DNA and were capable of traveling by thought, manipulating matter and other things. Okay, so now a short prayer. So here's a cleansing prayer modeled by Gene Decode. I remove permission to be in us, on us, and around us, on earth, off-world, any dimension, any person, place, or thing not of God, any assemblage of fallen angels, AI, nanobot, or other form of tech, any non-terrestrial species, spirit, thought form, operating system, genetic overlay, past, present, and future. That's right. And we say, get away from us in the name of Jesus. Now, prayer for today is actually the first in the series of In That Day, and it's being repeated here for this segment of Billie Beane's Alien Disclosure by a Redneck. And the name of the prayer is, I will be sanctified. It's based on the King James, Ezekiel 39. When the giants of the land awaken, Magog, situated north of the Caucasus Mountains, then I, Yah, will arise with healing and strength to power my sons and daughters, and none will escape my staff and rod. I will pursue the enemies of my people even into Hades. None will escape. And that day I, Yah, will be sanctified in the sight of many nations, and my people shall be blessed and live in peace. And we say, thank you, Father, Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there, continue to pray. God is in charge, and He is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.